Hi, Board Gamers, and welcome back to Not Board Gaming. I'm your host, I'm Mark. Now, it's that time of year when top 10 lists are going to be coming at you left, right and centre. You're going to be inundated with top 10 lists, so it's time for my top 10 solo games of 2023. Now, it's a little bit early. There's still a couple of weeks left of 2023, but I go on holiday on Christmas Eve for a couple of weeks. I've got no new games due to me between now and then, and even if they did arrive, I wouldn't have a chance to play them anyway. So I thought it'd be perfect time to actually do my top 10 list. In 2023, what a year it's been in gaming. There's been some highs and there's been some lows as well, but conventions are back with a bang. So I went to, I think, 4 this year. I did Aircon in March, then I did UK Games Expo in June, then I did Gen Con in August, and I did GridCon, which is Paul Grogan's gaming convention, in November. Now there are loads of other conventions to go to in the UK and around the world as well. Unfortunately, because I spent all my money on Gen Con this year, I didn't get the chance to go to Essen, which I would have loved to have done, because I think it's the first year since I've been into board games I've not been able to go to Essen. But hope next year, unless I go to Gen Con again, who knows. So I always like to start my top 10 lists with kind of some honourable mentions, if you like. Games that were good, but didn't quite make it into my top 10 list. And I'll start off with Resident Evil, the board game from Steamforged Games. Now, I had Resident Evil 3, didn't quite click with me, never played Resident Evil 2, but Resident Evil, based on the first Resident Evil game, although it's the third board game, I'm loving it. It's an old school kind of dungeon crawler, doesn't necessarily do anything new or innovative in any way, shape or form, but it's fun to play, and it's eminently replayable as well, because you're kind of going around the mansion. You can take different routes to try and get to the helipad to complete the game. So I'm really enjoying Resident Evil from Steamforged. Other ones, Paperback Adventures. Fell in love with this game instantly. It's my kind of sit down for an hour type of puzzle game. I love kind of spelling games and logic puzzle games, etc. It's not quite logic puzzle, but spelling games. This works for me fantastically well. There were a little bit of an issue with some of the markers in the trays when it first came out. That was easily resolved by Fowers Games, and I absolutely love Paperback Adventures. And if the idea of a spelling type game appeals to you, then you should go out and check out Paperback Adventures. Also, Unmatched Tales to Amaze. Yeah, I got this like a couple of weeks ago, and I played quite a few games now solo, because it's got a solo mode in there. I'm enjoying it. It gives you that unmatched feel. It's a little bit swingy, and I would recommend playing with 2 characters as opposed to playing true solo with it. But even so, it's giving me that unmatched feel as I play it. I still need to play it a considerable amount more before I make a video on it, and it's good that you can actually add any of the other unmatched characters into it. Potentially with expansions, it needs more bosses and more kind of AI to fight against, but the system works really, really well. So I would check out Unmatched Tales to Amaze. Final Girl Series 2 came out this year. Now, I would rate this very highly, but I'm not put it on the list this year because it is just an extension, if you like, of the Final Girl series. And I love the Final Girl series, absolutely love them, but they're rated quite highly on my list last year. Don't think it's right to kind of put them on my list this year, because although it's a new set of adventures and a new set of scenarios, etc., it's not a new game system. It's more of an expansion, if you like, that's there. And I want to give a really special shout out to Dranda Games as well. Now, their games haven't made my top 10 list this year, but they've been really, really, really enjoyable. So this year, they've given us Isle of Trains and Pioneer Rails, 2 relatively small box games, which just work absolutely fantastically well. Isle of Trains, you can pick up and deliver stuff, etc. And Pioneer Rails is kind of a flip and write type game, the set in Western genre. Really enjoyed that, and so kind of well done to Aidan and the guys over at Dranda Games for delivering there as well. Another special mention is to 1815 Scum of the Earth from Tristan Hall. Again, not quite made the top 10 list. I still need to do the review video on it, but I'm enjoying the solo on that. So that's kind of the honourable mentions for this year. Oh, there's one more that I don't think I put on my list. No, I didn't. And that's Frosthaven. Sorry, not Frostpunk. Frostpunk was my #1 game of last year. Frosthaven, should I say. Now, I'm not the world's biggest Gloomhaven fan. But I backed Frosthaven and I was ready to sell it on. I thought, you know what, Gloomhaven didn't grab me. Jaws of the Lion fell flat after a little bit. Well, Frosthaven kind of solves all of the issues that I had, a lot of the issues I had with Gloomhaven, in the fact that it gives you something to do in between quests. You've got the town bit that you're expanding on, and that's really, really important for me. Gloomhaven felt just too disconnected. It's like a series of, kind of different scenarios without any connecting narrative or any kind of connecting tissue between them, if you like. Well, they resolved that with Frostpunk. You've got this kind of growing area that you're kind of building buildings in, etc., and doing other stuff around the town. And it really, really works. I need to get it to the table more, but I've really enjoyed Frosthaven. I didn't quite make my top 10 list because it's still Gloomhaven at its heart, and I like Gloomhaven, but I don't love Gloomhaven. Okay? So, without much further ado, let's do my number, I'll put my phone down for this, 10. My 10th favourite game, solo game of this year. And the honour of being number 10 goes to Lunar Rush from Dead Alive Games, designed by Stephen Brown. Now, Lunar Rush, it's only just been out a couple of months. I previewed the game and then I got given a copy at Gen Con. I played it at Gen Con with Maggie and Amy from Think of Thema, etc. Lunar Rush just gives you that real good, tight Euro experience without taking 4 hours to play. And it's Lunar Rush by name and by nature, because all the while you're kind of jockeying for position to take stuff up to the moon and then back down to Earth, and you're kind of developing your space base, if you like, and getting additional things to do, and it plays really, really quick. Now, the solo is really, really well designed, and you can play against 2 AI, and I would absolutely recommend that you play against 2 AI when you do the solo. But I've really enjoyed my time with Lunar Rush. I think what Stephen's done is managed to create a kind of rapid feeling game and a kind of a Euro, mid-weight Euro that gives you that deep Euro-y feel without taking hours to play. So well done to Stephen Brown on that. Well done to Dead Alive Games. I know it's been a big release for you this year, and you've absolutely knocked it out of the park with Lunar Rush. It's a fantastic release. Go and check out Lunar Rush. Now for number 9. Number 9 on my list may surprise some of you, because the actual game itself that it comes from is my 3rd favourite game of all time. Now, the reason I put this in, and I didn't put Final Guild 2 in, is because it does change some of the mechanisms. And my number 9 favourite solo game this year is Too Many Bones Unbreakable. Now, it's a fantastic game. It has to be. I've played, God knows how many games this year that have come out this year, and Too Many Bones Unbreakable has made it into my top 10 at number 9. However, for me, and I love the game, I think it's fantastic, I would play it any time whatsoever. I prefer Undertow. I really prefer the base game. I prefer Undertow, and then it's probably Unbreakable. I actually kind of put the Lab Rats, etc., somewhere, and Splice and Dice somewhere between Undertow and Unbreakable. Unbreakable is fantastic. You've got the lava mechanism in there. You've got obviously new bad guys and new baddies, etc., that you're going to have to fight. Some new characters to play with, so it expands it. But I'm really glad that Chip Theory Games are kind of closing the circle on Too Many Bones now. The next iteration is the fantastic Elder Scrolls game. Now, it's Too Many Bones. It's like Too Many Bones, but it's like Too Many Bones on steroids. And I played it at Gen Con. I played a demo of it at Gen Con. By far and away the best game I played at Gen Con. I played some corkers at Gen Con. But anyway, back to Unbreakable. Fantastic addition to the series. A great way to close off the series. There's probably, for some people, too many bones stuff out there now. For me, this is the perfect amount. I've got Too Many Bones to last me a lifetime now. It's a really great game. Undertow just pips it, and the base game is the base game, and that's always going to be there. Bear in mind, Too Many Bones is my second favourite game of all time, should I say, not my third favourite, my second favourite solo game of all time. So I really enjoyed it, and therefore Too Many Bones Unbreakable at number 9. Now for number 8. Okay, at number 8 is a game which I demoed at UK Games Expo. I missed the Kickstarter, demoed it with Andrew Navarro, one of the designers, Fantasy Flight, at UK Games Expo, and fell in love with it. Spent a long time chatting with Andrew. They kindly sent me a review copy, and you can see it there, and that is Earthborn Rangers. Now, I'm not traditionally a fan of these card-type games. Marvel Champions didn't really grab me. As much as I really wanted to like Arkham Horror LCG, I just don't. I've played it 20, 30, if not more times, and every time I just get left a little bit flat by it. Well, Earthborn Rangers has kind of turned the corner on that for me. So it's a game that is kind of set in, I don't know, 400, year 4000 or something like that. The Earth's gone to pot, and then new civilizations are building up. And it plays like a Fantasy Flight card game. Of course it does. That's where Andrew's got his roots there. But the beauty of it is there's no real combat. There's obviously things to do in there, but you're not killing anything. You're kind of becoming at one with the environment, and you are, you may shoo creatures off, or you may connect with creatures, but you're not necessarily fighting creatures. And it's got this wonderful campaign, which really starts to unfold from about day 4 in there. Really good thing about Earthborn Rangers is it's all environmentally kind of consciously produced as well. So there's no plastic in there whatsoever, and is it FFC or FCC, the approved forest that they've taken the wood from to make the paper and the card. It's got this really wonderful environmental message in the product itself, which really shines through into this game, which is about connecting with nature and about becoming one with nature. The story is really good, and the gameplay, once you get it, admittedly, I don't think the rulebook is the best. It's not terrible, but it's not the best. But once you get it, man, you got this wonderful story of ongoing adventures and side quests, etc., that is only held back by your imagination. So number 8 for me is Earthborn Rangers from Earthborn Games. Now, at number 7, coming in at number 7, is a game that probably deserves more attention than it's getting. And that game, it comes from Incredible Dream Studios, and it's Kinfire Chronicles. So you get this big box of a game, and you've got this campaign that's going on, and you've got a wonderful kind of card system that you're using to move your characters around as they combat, and you're increasing and you're curating your cards all the time, basically, and taking new cards in there, making you stronger. There are a number of characters, and each character is asymmetrical, and each chapter that you play comes in its own box, so you're opening these boxes and taking stuff out. So not quite Legacy, of course, because you're not destroying anything, but it's got that feel on the first playthrough that you are kind of unveiling something new. It's got a really intuitive and nice way of learning the game, where over the kind of first 3 or 4 scenarios it adds rules, and those rules are in the boxes that you pull out those scenarios, so it kind of moves you along. It's got some wonderful acrylic standees as well, and I'd love to see more acrylic standees. I know we saw it in Uprising, Curse of the Last Emperor last year, and I've got the expansion for Uprising, and I've not played it yet, and I need to play that. But yeah, Kinfire Chronicles tells this wonderful tale over a number of adventures. It's really easy to learn. It takes about 10 minutes to set up and about 10 minutes to put away, and it's got this book of each map on there, and you've got bad guys going on there, and you're going to combat them, and it's got a bit of a fail forward system going on in there as well, and there's secret decks that you can only take cards out if you do certain things. Really, really nice campaign that doesn't take oodles of time to play. So you could probably do a scenario in around about 40 minutes, and that's absolutely ideal. Now, solo, you've got to play as 2 characters, and that's fine as well, because you want that kind of interaction between them. But I've really, really enjoyed my time with Kinfire Chronicles. I'm going to have a review coming of it in January when I played more of the campaign, and it's not getting as much love as it potentially needs out there. But if you are suffering from a bit of campaign fatigue from games like Frosthaven and Oathsworn, which are big sprawling games but they take a lot of time up, then you may want to look at Kinfire Chronicles as something that's got this nice, relatively straightforward rule set that plays really, really well. Fantastic acrylic miniatures, so kind of no moulded plastic on there. Go and check out Kinfire Chronicles from Incredible Dream Studios. Now, we're going on to my number 6 game of the year now. So at number 6 is a game that when I reviewed it, at the point I reviewed it, was my favourite game of the year. So it goes to tell you kind of what the next 5 games are going to be and when they were released, because I think I reviewed it back in July, and the top 5 have all come out towards the back end of the year. And it's from one of my favourite designers, that's Adam Kwapinski, and it is absolutely a game that will not appeal to everybody because there are flaws in the game as well. But every time I've had it on the table, I've had an epic experience with it. And that game is Lords of Ragnarok from Awaken Realms. Now, Awaken Realms, people love them. And I split Awaken Realms up into 2 kind of camps. You've got the big sprawling kind of adventure type games like your Tainted Grail, ISS Vanguard, etc. which don't necessarily work for me. And then you get the more contained experiences like Great Wall, like Nemesis, and like Lords of Ragnarok. Now, I will say that the AI, I always play against two AIs now. I start off with one and play against, and now I play against two. It's a fairly complex rule set devised by Adam and David Turksey, and it cheats a little bit like all AIs do, I suppose, and it doesn't play quite the same game as you, and it's not going to be for everybody because the overhead is quite severe on it. However, once you get used to it and you get the flow of the game down, I have these epic games of Lords of Ragnarok, and it grabbed me in a way that I didn't think it would, because again, it's another game that when I backed it, I don't know, a couple of years ago, forgot about it, and it came through and I thought, oh, you know, do I keep it? And I decided to give it a go, and I'm so glad that I did. And as I say, at the time, I think it was early July when I reviewed it, it was my favourite solo game of the year, and that just goes to show, I will caveat it, it's not going to be for everybody. The AI, there's a lot of overhead there and a lot of things to remember, your own rules and the AI rules as well, and some decision trees to go through. Some people don't like that, so if you don't like complex AIs, keep away from it. But if you do, and you like the idea of kind of a 2-hour kind of epic adventure game, then go for Lords of Ragnarok from Awakened Realms, designed by Adam Kupinski. So that was my first 5 I've done. That was number 6. So I've done 5 now. There. 5, 4, 3, 2. Yeah, I've done 5 now. And at this point, I always like to take a break and talk about some of my kind of disappointments of the year, games which just didn't quite hit for me. Now, there aren't many because I haven't. Buying games, you obviously do a lot of research first. I don't want to buy games that I know I'm not going to like. So some of them are ones that I took a punt on, and some of the ones are ones that I, at the time when I backed it, maybe I was a bit more enamoured with the company than I am right now. But first on the list is exactly that. It's ISS Vanguard from Awakened Realms. So again, probably backed it a couple of years ago. Now I know that these Awakened Realms type games for me, they're just too flabby. These epic adventures that they do, they're just too flabby for me. There's too much stuff in there. They're all generally games of 2 halves as well. So you have the adventure bit and then another bit, be that narrative bit or whatever. And ISS Vanguard is exactly that. You've got the main part of the game, which is the planetary exploration, if you like, and you're upgrading your team, etc. They're getting stronger and they're going out. They're doing this sandboxy type adventure, going through various planets, exploring all the wildlife and everything that's there, completing missions and what have you. Then you've got the ship kind of management part, and that's the part I thought I wouldn't like. Well, flip that over on its head. Really like the ship management part. I got utterly bored by the planetary exploration. I mean, really bored, like grindy bored. I so lost its shine for me after about 6 or 7 planets that I've packed it up and it's in my sale pile now. And I know now that those big kind of, unless there's a way that Awakened Realms are going to change what they do. And I believe they may have done that a little bit with the latest kind of, what's it called? Tainted Grail that's coming out. I don't know, not played it. But yeah, but that kind of grindy thing, it just doesn't appeal to me. I lose interest in the game, and that's what I did with ISS Vanguard. Beautifully produced product, loads of stuff in there, too much stuff in there. And of course, if you've got all the expansions, then loads and loads of stuff. But it's a big, flabby game which loses my interest fairly quickly. The next one is an unusual miss by Mind Clash, and that is Septima. So I backed Septima when it came out. I played it in the kind of on Tabletop Simulator while the Kickstarter was going at 3 players, and had a decent time. I thought, you know what, I'll back it. And then the game arrived, and I played it solo, and yeah. God, that game goes on too long, and there is not a great deal there to grab your interest as well. It becomes a boring monotony of doing the same actions over and over again, and what you've got is a beautifully produced game which looks absolutely fantastic, with a rule set that is potentially too complex for what the game delivers. It's just not worth the investment. The juice is not worth the squeeze on Septima, and everything that's been added to it to expand the gameplay just feels like it's been added to expand the gameplay. It doesn't feel a key part of the gameplay. So ultimately, I think I played it about 8 or 9 times, something like that, reviewed it, boxed it up, sold it. That was all within about 2.5, 3 weeks, something like that. you know, I say a rare miss from My Clash Games for me. I generally love most of their games, but Septima, no, I'm sorry, it's kind of, God, well, all fur coat and no knickers, if you like. It's just, yeah, it's just ultimately disappointing, and from a solo perspective, yeah, it just becomes very much a rinse and repeat type game. Another disappointment, which it's kind of hard to class it as a disappointment because I quite enjoy the game, but I'm going to class it as a disappointment, is Expeditions from Stonemaier. So Expeditions is set in the Scythe world, but you've got to remember it's not Scythe, and it's an abstract kind of optimization puzzle game, and that is basically what it is. But they've beefed it up by having, you know, Jakob, I can't remember his surname, Jakob's artwork, and kind of, you know, making it within the Scythe universe. It's not Scythe, it doesn't try to be Scythe. But what you've got is a game that, whilst it's entertaining and good while you play it, it's just too overproduced for what it actually is, and it costs too much. I think the base game, if you don't get the ironclad miniatures, the base is about 60 quid, and then, you know, you get the ironclad miniatures and you're looking at around about £100 for it, or £100 plus for it. If I'm getting that, I want more gameplay in there, and what you've got is a nice £30 game. If they'd released it with a smaller footprint, yeah, they didn't even have to call it size, but if they released it with a smaller footprint, with less premium components, at £35, it would have been perfectly priced. But as it stands, it's way too expensive, way too overproduced, takes up too much table space for what is effectively a nice abstract puzzle game. It is completely themeless, like totally themeless. Although it's got this wonderful Scythe artwork on there, there's no real connection to what you're doing. You're just going around and collecting bits from X, Y, and Z. I enjoy it, but ultimately, it's not the sum of its parts. And I think that's the main thing about it, is it's a nice small box game that's been beefed up and been given kind of, you know, glammed up, etc. And it's just not worth the amount of money they're asking for it, for the amount of gameplay that's in there. And that really tenuous link to Scythe, I think, is more of a marketing stretch than a gameplay stretch, because you could have rebranded this game as anything and it would have still worked. But they put it on Scythe because Scythe's got an audience, obviously. So yeah, I do like Expeditions. Don't think it's worth the price tag. I don't think it's worth the table space, but it's a decent optimization, themeless optimization game. So that's it. That's kind of my disappointments of this year. Right, let's move on to number 5. At number 5 is my second Chip Theory games on here. It's in the last month or so been released to backers. I got given a copy at Gen Con, like an early production copy at Gen Con. It's small game for Chip Theory games. You get a number of different packs in there. Of course, I'm talking 20 strong. Wow, what a fantastic solo-only game 20 strong is. Probably my second favourite solo-only game of this year. Just checking the list, absolutely. My second favourite solo-only game of this year. And it's just perfect for taking to an airport, for taking to a hotel room when you've got half an hour to play. Endless amounts of playability and replayability with the various decks. So you have the Solar Sentinels, you have Too Many Bones, you have Hoplomachus Victorum in there. Each of them use the same core rules. All of them play very, very differently. It's a masterpiece of design by the guys over at Chip Theory. And as I say, had it not been for the game, one other game that's on my list, it would have been my favourite pure solo game of this year. I've just had a lot of fun with 20 Strong. And it just goes to show that sometimes from a company like Chip Theory Games, who are known for these big production values, they've understood that also less is more in terms of rule sets, in terms of kind of components, and what you can do with a standard deck of, well, with a deck of cards, not standard deck of cards, with a deck of tailored cards and a standard and adaptable rule set. So as a solo game, if you're looking for a pure solo experience that you can play in 20 minutes, maybe longer, depending on your decision space, but around 20 minutes, reset it, play it again, takes no time to set up, will fit in your backpack to take everywhere. Go and check out 20 Strong, absolutely fantastic addition to the Chip Theory arsenal. I'm in love with 20 Strong, I think it's absolutely fantastic. So now we're going on to my 4th favourite solo game of this year. And this is a game that I've been playing throughout its development. So a good 2.5 years ago, I met up with the guys from Stone Sword Games, played the game then, and played it at various stages through development. Finally got released to backers. I know there was a delay on the Kickstarter which caused some consternation, but it's finally got released to backers now. I got given an early review copy, then my pledge came through as well. And of course, I'm talking Senjutsu Battle for Japan. Wow, I mean, this game gives you exactly that feel of kind of feudal Japanese combat where you're not rushing in to make a kill, where it's all about timing and position. It's one of the best positional play games out there. You're kind of waiting, holding back, going through your deck, trying to find the right combination of cards. And when you get them and you deliver those strikes, fantastic. Unless you're blocked by the opponent, and that becomes a real pain in the backside. And that has happened and can happen as well. So it's all about having a backup plan there as well. The AI is really, really good. You can play against as many AIs as you want, basically, I suppose. But the AI is really, really good. The rules as released weren't the best. In fact, they were a little bit kind of, wow. Had I not known how to play the game, I would have struggled with the rules, but I did know how to play the game, still made some mistakes, but I know they have a living rules document as well. But I'm utterly in love with Senjutsu Battle for Japan. It's everything I wanted it to be. You know, for the base game, I think it's around about 40 quid for the base game, so it's really, really well priced. And as a kind of skirmish game where you can play solo or against other people, it's got so much replayability, and you're honing your decks and you kind of deck construction to find out how each character can be optimized, etc. I'm in love with Senjutsu. It's a fantastic achievement by Paul David Allen and James Faulkner. If you haven't checked it out and the idea of a skirmish game appeals to you, go and check out Senjutsu by Stone Sword Games. So now we're on to my top 3 games. And at number 3, we have a game that I played half a game of at Gen Con. Then it was released at Essen, and I'd not even played a full game, and I didn't back it. I got somebody to pick me up a copy. Thank you very much, Mike Dennis from Ready Steady Play, for picking me up a copy of this game. And I'm talking about Nucleum from Simone Luciani and David Turksey. Wow, the solo is so good, like so good. You've got this really kind of deep, thinky, adaptive gameplay. It's all about energy and kind of distributing a new type of energy and building networks around towns and delivering this energy. It's not going to appeal to everybody. It's very much a Euro game, but my God, what an absolute joy I'm having with Nucleum. And the solo plays so well. There's a few decision trees to go through, but other than that, once you get it down, each turn, yours and the AI's turn, take absolutely almost no time whatsoever to take those turns. I think Nucleum, for me, I know people compare it to Brass and some others. I've never played Brass. From a solo perspective, I think it's an absolute work of art, and I will play Nucleum anytime. Yes, the setup and teardown takes a while, and yes, the insert in the box is next to useless, and and various other things. You know, it's not going to be for everybody, and certainly in terms of the AI having a bit of overhead on there, that's not going to be. But once you understand how it works and if it appeals to you, it's utterly fantastic, and I believe they've already announced the next expansion. So that was my number 3. That was Nucleum. Now we're on to number 2. Okay, at number 2 is my favourite pure solo game I've played this year. And I think when I previewed it, I said it was my favourite pure solo game I've played in a considerable amount of time. What can I say about this game? Well, first of all, I'll tell you what it is. It's this game here. Not many will have it, but those that have had it and played it absolutely fell in love with it. It's Halls of Hegera from Peter Shanker Olsen and Tompet Games, and it is an absolute work of art. It takes place, I think it's Norwegian forces that were besieged by the Germans, and it's got distinctive phases in there. Once you finish one phase, it moves to the next, and the board state changes a little bit. Lots and lots of kind of decisions to make. Now imagine Robinson Crusoe, but far better. Robinson Crusoe bored me. Each decision you make is utterly meaningful in this game, and as you go through the various days of the siege, you know, I say the game state changes. What you've done in the early stages will reflect what you've done in the late stages. You're out foraging for supplies, or you're battling kind of infantry, or you've got what are called air force coming in and try and take over. And the aim is to try and keep the Germans away for the duration of the siege. No two games play exactly the same. You're going to make different decisions throughout each game, and because of how the cards come out as well, you're going to have different things to deal with. You're in a constant state of threat and peril. It's one of those games where you think after the first 2 or 3 days, well, maybe 2 days, you're like, I've got this, it's down. things take a sideways turn really, really quickly in this game. And if you're not prepped and planned for it, then what's going to happen is you're going to get your bottom smite quite severely. In many games, you'll not even make it to the end of the final day. What Petr Shanko-Olsen's done here, you see, he also did what was it called, the Roman one? Can't remember. Donning the Purple. He did Donning the Purple, which the solo was okay, but it wasn't the best. Well, this is pure solo. It's single player, pure solo. War games aren't necessarily my thing. Or games set in, I know it's not a war game, but games set in a wartime period aren't necessarily my thing. From the moment I played it, when I previewed it, right through to getting my my actual copy and then playing it so many times, I just think Petr has created his magnum opus here. I don't see where he can go from here. I hope he does. I hope he continues to rise and rise and rise, because it's utterly beautiful, fantastic, wonderful, full of peril, full of decision. You feel the kind of the dread and the impending doom that these soldiers have, and there's wonderful amounts of lore in there as well that you can read. When I say lore, history, where you can read all about exactly what happened. You can research it online. It's a fascinating thing that happened here. Pure solo, absolutely love it. Best pure solo game of this year. That is Halls of Hegra. Now we're on to my number one game of this year. So, my favourite solo game of this year. If you see me on the forums, if you saw my review of this game, you'll know I rate it really highly. My love of this game has not dropped off in any way, shape or form since I got it a few months ago. It's a big table hog of a game that takes a long time to set up. It's got a complex rule set to learn. Each game is going to take you maybe 90 minutes to 2 hours as a solo game. You can play it with up to 4 people, I think, and that's going to take you maybe 3 or 4 hours. And of course, I'm talking Voidfall from Mindclash Games, designed by Nigel Buckle and David Turksey. This is, for me, everything I want in a space combat-y, combat's not it, in a space kind of arena. You see, Gaia Project I think is okay, but and I love Xia, Legends of a Drift system, absolutely adore Xia, but Voidfall for me gives me everything I want. You have kind of each cycle that you go through there, which you have various amounts of varying lengthy cycles depending on what cards come out. You have something like 27 choices at the beginning of each cycle, and those will whittle down as you go through the cycle and you start using cards. And it's not just about what happens now, but you're also planning that if I do this and I do that and I do that, then in 3 terms time I can do this and play this card. And that's what I love about it. Combat is purely deterministic. Now that is a reason that some people don't like it, and I get that. I understand that deterministic combat is not going to be for everybody, but for me, absolutely, it works and gives my strategic brain something to think about. The production quality is out of this world. I've got the Galactic box with the plastic miniatures, etc. You certainly don't need that. You can go with the base version. The inserts or the game trays, there's how you stack the various houses. There's like 14 different houses that you can play with. How you stack those and store those isn't the best. But in terms of is the juice worth the squeeze for Voidfall, for me, 100%. When I want to feel like I'm playing an epic game, I get Voidfall out, because what Nigel and David have done is taken one of Nigel's early designs, can't remember the name of it, and adapted that, and over time honed it and fine-tuned it. Now again, it's a game I played through various iterations throughout its development, either on TTS or at various conventions with David, and I've seen how things have adapted. The solo game, you're playing against the Voidborn and they're coming out, and you've got these this constant threat at you coming out. So not only are you kind of playing the board state, but you're also considering where you are and what potentially could come out next against you, and what you're going to try and do to try and mitigate that as well. Creates this ever-changing dynamic. Each of the 14 houses, I believe the 14, is asymmetrical. It may only seem like a minor change, but when you play with them, it makes a huge difference. What that means is that your replayability is huge. There isn't a massive number of solo-only scenarios, but that doesn't matter, because you're going to want to play them with different houses and actually find out how each different house plays and how they do it differently. It is an utter masterpiece. It is a game that kind of almost defies anything else that came before it in terms of the levels of complexity, which, while seemingly hard at first, once you nail how it plays, you get the flow of the game and it becomes very, very intuitive. It drives decision making for you. It makes you think strategically. Combat isn't a huge part of it, and that's okay. But if you're looking for a combat game, then it's not going to be for you. But in terms of kind of once you've learned to play it, once you've spent your 15, 20 minutes setting it out, when you first set it out, admittedly it's going to, in your first game, it's going to take you probably 45 minutes to set it out. But you do get that down to about 15, 20 minutes. Once you've done that and you can commit maybe 2 hours, 90 minutes to 2 hours to a scenario, then you're going to have a game which just, if you're in that mind, in that frame of mind, you're going to have a game which just... Oh, it's just, you know, it's just so sweet. It just is a sweet, sweet game. It feels like it's so finely honed and balanced that it just, oh, it's like nectar on the tongue. It's just a beautiful space experience. I absolutely love Voidfall. I will happily play it with others. I have played it with others, and I will happily set it up if I've got an evening free, spend the time to set it up, because I know I'm going to have a fantastic time with Voidfall. Does it need expansions? Probably not. I'd be happy with if they never did. I'm sure they will based on the success of it. But seeing it through all the various iterations, playing it with others, playing it solo, it's without a shadow of a doubt my game of the year, my solo game of the year for 2023. That's Voidfall from Mindclash Games, designed by Nigel Buckle and David Turksey. And there we go. That's it. That's my top 10 solo games of the year. Now, like all top 10 lists, they are purely subjective. I mean, these are just my thoughts. You will, nobody will have exactly the same list as me, and you'll be shouting at the screen at some of my choices, and also shouting at the screen at some of the games that I've omitted from there as well. And maybe even the games that I was disappointed in, you're saying, no, it's my favourite game this year. And that's what I love about board gaming. Is no two of us have exactly the same taste. So everybody likes something ever so slightly different. You may align on certain tastes, but on other tastes we're going to be far and kind of divergent. So yeah, here's my list. Do your own list. Let me know in the comments what your favourite games are of the year. Watch everybody else's top 10 lists as well. It's a wonderful time of year, the top 10 lists. We all get angry and passionate, etc. But there's no such thing as a bad top 10 list, because it's all down to what people enjoy playing. I've really enjoyed these games. I've enjoyed a ton of others as well, but these are the games that have stood out for me. So thank you very much to everybody that's watched the channel this year, everybody that's subscribed. I think I'm at around about 5,600 subscribers now, which when I started kind of 4 years ago was a pipe dream. So thank you to everybody that subscribed to the channel. Thank you to all the wonderful people, content creators and publishers out there as well. So people I've met for the first time this year, who I've been speaking to for a long time, people like Michael Kelly, Alex Radcliffe, who I've met twice now this year after not meeting him for a long, long time. Old friends in the content creation world, people like Will Brown from Hungry Gamer, Jeremy Howard, Carl Rahnkamp. I've not met Carl, neither have I met Daniel Anderson, but if you've not checked out Daniel's channel or Carl's channels, that's Purple Moose Plays or Tabletop for One, go and check those out. Do yourself a favour, go and find some smaller content creators, go and go and watch their channel, subscribe to the channel. Subscription costs nothing, but it means a lot to these people, to content creators. You know, people like Mark Monk and Ninja Geek Graham, some great channels out there which potentially don't get the kind of recognition that they need. So go and find some small content creators, go and click on their channel, go and enjoy what they do. Thank you to everybody who's watched my channel. Looking forward to next year. Some great games coming out next year. One of the major ones I'm looking forward to is the aforementioned Elder Scrolls game from Chip Theory Games. Really, really looking forward to seeing what they do with that, because the demo I played was fantastic. We have also Inventions coming out next year from Vita Lacerda. A whole slew of games. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but there'll be a whole slew of games coming out in the next year or so. Have a great Christmas. Have a fantastic New Year. I'll be back in January at some point. Once again, thank you so much. My name's Mark. This is Not Board Gaming. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other videos. And one final thought. If you can't find anyone else to play with, then there's nothing wrong with playing with yourselves. Until next time, bye-bye.